I look at it as purely from a performer standpoint.
But let's get into it while we're all here, not only to kind of hear and catch up with Arn, but also to talk to him a little bit and pick his brain about November 1995 and World War III and the three rings in Norfolk at the Scope and all the good times that happened here. But to bring everybody up from where we were about a month ago, we were closing it all down at Halloween Havoc, monster trucks on the roof. You remember that, talking about that. Jimmy Hart, the turn on Hogan. Giant wins the title, which it was okay on a DQ for him to win the title. The title is later now held up. Also, we saw Lex Luger. He turns on Hulk Hogan. And so they make this decision to hold up the title. And now the title is going to be on the line at the big pay-per-view in November, World War III. Now, Arn, the way this works, 20 men in one ring, 20 men in another, and 20 in another. So 60 altogether. As we get into this, I'll break down the card. We'll talk about how it all worked out. But they had three different commentary teams. So you had Chris Cruz and Larry Zbyszko at a ring. You had Tony Schiavone at a ring as well. And then you had Eric Bischoff, Dusty Rhodes. Schiavone was with Bobby Heenan. So it was an interesting concept, never been done before. Before we jump into getting there and talking about the card, thoughts on this going into it? When they told you, Arn Anderson, we're going to do a 3-ring, 60-man battle royal, what are you thinking? Like, this is going to work? This is too much? Did you have any initial thoughts?
I look at it as purely from a performer standpoint. Battle royals will either be good or rotten, because there's only so many things you can do in that setting. It's just, you get 20 people in the ring and people get involved in the match mentally and they get rocking and rolling and they forget, hey, there's 19 other people in this ring. You know, before I get knocked on my ass or before I throw a punch or before I do anything, I better be aware of where those other people are. Because if they're right behind you and you get knocked on your can, you land on somebody's knee, somebody gets injured. You got a guy trapped in the corner, guy's walking up behind you, you go to throw a punch, you end up elbowing them in the teeth. There's so many things that can happen during that much activity in one ring, much less three. And I just looked at it from a common sense standpoint. If you're a fan, how many things can you watch at one time? You know,
it felt like you were watching this show. It was almost like me, you, and Mark Marrow. That's how they had the screen split with the three rings. It was with the board around it. It was almost like watching this is like the old school, how they had it set up when I was watching back the pay-per-view. I thought this is a StreamYard screen. The way they had it all set up, but then they eventually morphed it down, and we'll get into some more details. But I want to talk about kind of the storylines getting into the card. I mentioned the Giant. They take the title from him. They decide to hold it up. There's questions. There's thoughts. Was it, are we protecting Hogan still by stripping the Giant, or do you think it was, hey, we want to boost this World War III concept and say, hey, whoever wins gets to win the world title. So we think this is an effective. In your estimation, do you think it was about protecting Hulk, or hey, let's really pump up this big match that we've never had before?
I don't know what the thought process actually was, to be honest with you. You can look at it. Is it exciting? You got all these people and it's a spectacle. It absolutely is a spectacle, but still, it's hard to watch more than one or two things at a time. And when the eliminations go down, if people aren't watching that and keying in on that, especially if you're at home, if you're in the arena, you have a wider viewing area. You can see everything. When you're at home, you can't necessarily. If the camera's shooting something else, you get eliminated. I think you lose a little bit of reaction there. I wasn't a huge fan of it. Let me put it to you that way.
with the questions as well. But want to give you a chance, Arn, to talk a little bit about Brock before we jump into it, because he's doing his thing. I know he's going to be doing some more work with AML. He's doing his thing with MLW, and wanted to see how everything's going with your son.
He's paying his dues. He's, I think he's improving every single time. He's just in that environment. He pays attention. He watches the other matches. He sees, what makes sense. He sees what's looks like maybe it doesn't make sense, and has his own deduction of what to do and what not to do. He's paying his dues, and we're, like I said, I always like to thank AML and MLW for using him, and CW, and having CW right there ringside to help guide him is such a blessing. It's it's just a process, and he's getting there, inching along, and a couple of days a week, he goes over to the school that he was broke in, Lodi's camp, and he gets a good day over there, or two. So he's doing with what is available. He's doing all you could expect.
Man, it's great to hear. All of us, I'm sure, watch and follow him on social media. So we're keeping up with his career, whether it's watching it on YouTube or a streaming app, or just checking out what he's got going on social media. And it's just awesome to see the career progression, and then to sit and be able to chat with you every two weeks, and to hear you talk about it. So just very happy for Brock and all that he has going on for him right now. Well,
any dad is always proud if their son decides to follow in their footsteps in whatever endeavor. If they're an accountant, if they're an athlete, whatever, fly fisherman, whatever it may be, if they follow your footsteps, you're very proud of that. And in this business, sometimes it's a good idea and sometimes it's not. I couldn't be prouder of it.
Rob joked in the chat, and I don't think he was joking. I think he was dead serious. Man, would love a rotation where we see Brock and Mark Marrow and some of these come back through the show. Hey, you never know. Arn, you and I were just talking before we went live how fun that Mark Marrow show was. We loved having Brock. We loved having Tully. And we just think there's going to be more and more opportunity as we go to every now and then inject some of these guys on the show here. And we've gotten tremendous feedback on it. It was great having Mark Marrow here last time.
Yeah, if you want them back, all you have to do is ask, and we'll have them back, guys. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And a lot of great memories with guys working with Arn. So we have another gentleman up our sleeve that we're going to talk to and see if they come out and join us. I'm sure they will. And so we're excited about that in the near future.